ever caught that look, that deep, meaningful, yet utterly mysterious gaze from your cat? She just sits there, staring at you, and the thought inevitably crosses your mind. What on earth is she thinking right now? But what if that barrier simply vanished? What if, one day, your cat looked at you and spoke? Today, we're going to imagine exactly that. We'll delve into 10 phrases you'd absolutely hear from your feline companion. And trust us, some of them might genuinely surprise you. Cats have lived alongside us for thousands of years. They've journeyed from revered deities in ancient Egypt to fully fledged members of our modern families. We've developed an entire language of gestures and intonations, trying to decipher their meows, purrs, and expressive tail movements. But all of this is merely our best guess. Just imagine the revolution in our relationships if we gained direct access to their thoughts. Let's kick things off with the most important subject. Mornings. Picture this. It's 5 a.m., still pitch black outside, and you're lost in the sweetest dream. Suddenly, you feel a gentle pressure on your chest, then on your face. It's your personal furry alarm clock who has decided your beauty sleep is officially over. And instead of the usual meow, you hear a distinct voice brimming with reproach. He stares you down, straight into your eyes, and declares, "I apologise for interrupting your utterly unproductive sleep, but we have a code red situation." You crack open one eye, trying to decipher what's going on. He continues, a subtle flick of his chin, gesturing towards the kitchen. "The bowl! It's empty." Of course, you distinctly recall having filled that bowl just last night, but all you receive in return is a condescending sigh. It's half empty, and to glimpse the bottom of the bowl, that is a direct violation of the universal order, and of my inherent rights. You must understand, for a feline, this isn't merely hunger. This is a fundamental principle. A full bowl represents stability. A gaping crater in the centre of the food mountain, however, that is pure chaos. And you, my human, are obligated to immediately restore harmony to our universe. Now let's delve into something a little more nuanced. The delicate art of petting. Imagine this. You're relaxing on the sofa, and he saunters over. His purr engine revs to full throttle as he rubs against your hand. You start to stroke him, and in your mind, you hear his content voice. "Oh, yes." Just like that. Right behind the ear. Perfect. You're almost getting it. Then he rolls onto his back, exposing the most sacred of all, that tempting, fluffy belly. And this is where the true test begins. You naturally interpret this as a supreme act of trust, an open invitation for a belly rub. But then, a calm, icy voice echoes in your mind. "It's a trap." He'd continue, "I'm merely exposing my vulnerable spot to test your self-restraint. Your only task is to admire from a safe distance. Any unauthorized encroachment upon this strategic fluff reserve will be met with immediate and decisive retaliation. Consider yourself warned." And yet, when your hand inevitably succumbs to the allure of that tempting fluff, you'll hear, "All right, you brought this upon yourself." And now for the most perplexing phenomenon in the feline universe. It's 3 a.m. The house is shrouded in silence. Then, without warning, it starts. A cacophony of thuds, frantic pounding, and the unmistakable clatter of things being knocked over. You leap out of bed, convinced you've got burglars. But no, it's your 7-kilogram, fluffy hurricane launching a full-scale assault on every vertical surface. He streaks past your bedroom, sending a vase crashing, springs onto the wardrobe, and vanishes down the hall. If you could just ask him, "What on earth are you doing?" He'd pause for a split second, chest heaving, eyes blazing with an almost religious fervour, and exclaim, "The zoomies! The holy zoomies! What questions could you possibly have?" And he wouldn't be joking. He'd explain, "While you lie there snoring away pointlessly, I am performing the most vital mission. I am shedding excess cosmic energy, patrolling the territory, and checking for any invisible entities. This is my job, my calling, so just roll over, face the wall, And rest easy, knowing that while I'm doing my sacred zoomies, you are perfectly safe. And then, with another thunderous gallop, he'd launch himself back into action. Let's talk about a concept utterly foreign to the feline mind: personal space, or, more specifically, closed doors. To a cat, a closed door isn't just an obstacle, it's a direct challenge, an affront, a personal insult. Picture this: you slip into the bathroom, hoping for 5 minutes of peace and solitude. The moment the lock clicks, a furious scratching begins under the door, accompanied by a dramatic, indignant voice. "Hey, what's going on in there? What are you doing without me?" You try to ignore it, but the barrage continues. "This is a strategically vital area. I demand an immediate inspection. What if there's an ambush? Or, worse yet, you're secretly eating something delicious and not sharing. This is a direct violation of the Geneva Conventions of Feline Rights. Open this door at once. I need to ensure everything is in order and that you're not plotting anything against me. Your secrecy is highly suspicious." And this monologue, brimming with suspicion and righteous indignation, will continue relentlessly until you finally give in and open that door. What do cats really think when we leave the house? For us, it's just routine. Work, groceries, catching up with friends. But for them, for them, it's a Shakespearean tragedy every single time. You're putting on your shoes, grabbing your keys. Your cat sits nearby, watching you with huge, mournful eyes. And the moment that door clicks shut, he collapses onto the rug, letting out a dramatic, theatrical moan. If he had a voice, he'd dramatically exclaim, "That's it then. He's gone. Forever. Abandoned me all alone in this cruel, desolate world. And even if you only popped out for 5 minutes to grab some bread, your return will be met with an air of profound accusation." He'd stare at you as if you were a phantom and declare, "You're back." I had given up all hope. I'd already resigned myself to my tragic fate. I was perishing from hunger and solitude. I counted every single dust bunny under the sofa. Those were the longest 15 minutes of my life. Don't you ever, ever do that again. And naturally, after such an ordeal, he'd immediately demand moral compensation in the form of an extra large, unscheduled portion of treats. And then there's their generosity, those infamous gifts they so proudly deposit at your doorstep: a mouse, a freshly caught bird, or even a giant May beetle. To us, it's, shall we say, quite a shock, but for them, it's an act of supreme affection and a display of their pedagogical prowess. Imagine you open your front door and there on the doormat lies, well, you get the picture. And right next to it, your cat sits, absolutely beaming with pride. He'd look at you, then at his prize, and with the air of a seasoned mentor, he'd practically say, "Look and learn, biped. This is food, real food. I brought it for you." You'd probably wince, but he'd continue with a tone of paternal concern. "I see you're utterly hopeless at hunting. You spend all day staring at that glowing rectangle, then eat some bizarre, dry stuff from a bag. This simply won't do. I worry about you, honestly. That's why I've decided to give you a lesson in survival. Don't thank me. Just pay attention and remember. Tomorrow there will be a practical session. Try not to embarrass yourself too much." But cats aren't just about eating, sleeping and hunting. They possess a rich inner world, teeming with grand schemes and petty personal vendettas. Take your cat, for instance, sitting for hours on the windowsill. She isn't merely looking out the window, she's conducting surveillance. Her gaze is locked onto a single target, that audacious little titmouse flitting about on the branch right outside. If only your cat could speak, you'd hear a low whisper, brimming with restrained fury. "Just look at her. Back again. Taunting me. Thinks this glass will save her, does she?" Her whiskers would twitch with tension, her tail flicking with barely contained irritation. "She thinks I've forgotten how she mocked me last Tuesday. But I forget nothing. My memory is perfect. One day, you brazen bird, this glass will vanish. Or I will learn to pass through walls, and then we'll have our talk. Oh yes, we'll have a very serious talk." And in that moment, you'd realise your sweet, fluffy companion is also a cold-blooded strategist, meticulously plotting her next move. Ever wonder what your cat really thinks of your friends? For us, guests mean pleasant company, but for a cat, it's an outright invasion of sacred territory by unwelcome intruders. And believe me, they form very strong opinions about everyone who crosses your threshold. So your best friend arrives, the cat emerges, gives them a head-to-toe sniff down, like a tiny, furry customs inspector, then retreats to a strategic vantage point for intense observation. Later, when you're finally alone, she'd likely sidle up and confide in you, a hushed whisper in your ear. That one. The loud laugher. He smells peculiar. A strange blend of wet dog and utter gloom. I'm not impressed. Then, with a particular air of indignant fury, she'd add, and to top it all off, he dared to sit in my spot, that perfectly warmed, perfectly scented corner of the sofa, imbued with my very essence. I consider it a grave insult. I don't trust him one bit. Keep a close eye on him. And next time, please, a little heads up before these invasions. I need to be mentally prepared for such affronts. But the truly fascinating part would be if your cat could suddenly articulate what it sees, but you don't. We've all seen our cats suddenly freeze, staring intently into an empty corner, or how they'll track something invisible moving across the room. We usually attribute it to dust motes dancing in sunbeams, or perhaps their incredibly sensitive hearing. But what if we're wrong? Picture this. It's a quiet evening, you're engrossed in a book. Suddenly, your cat, curled up beside you, snaps its head towards the empty doorway. Its pupils dilate. It freezes for a few seconds, then slowly turns to you, and in a perfectly calm voice asks, "You see that too, right?" You'd glance around, see absolutely nothing, and probably respond with, "See what?" And it would calmly reply, "Oh, you know, that. The dark, fast thing. It just darted by. Into the kitchen, I think. Weird, it usually doesn't show up until after midnight. And in that precise moment, your cosy, familiar home would suddenly feel a lot less safe. And now for the simplest, yet most important phrase. It wouldn't be about food, revenge, or otherworldly beings. It would be about the ultimate treasure in the feline universe. Imagine bringing home a brand new, expensive piece of tech, a huge box. You unbox your gadget, admire your new purchase, and toss the empty box onto the floor, planning to discard it later. At that very moment, your cat, who had been observing the whole process with complete indifference, suddenly springs to life. She approaches the box, cautiously sniffs it, peeks inside, then slowly, with an air of profound contentment, she climbs in, curls into a tight ball, and lets out a sigh of pure bliss. From her new cardboard palace, she'd gaze up at you, and with genuine awe in her voice, she'd declare, "Now this is what I'm talking about. This box. It's perfect. The best thing you've ever brought into this house. Thank you. You can keep your shiny gadget. This is all mine." And in that moment, you'd understand that true happiness isn't found in expensive possessions, but in a simple cardboard box of the perfect size. But here's the most fascinating twist in this whole scenario. Imagine for a moment that cats could actually talk. We'd hear everything, from urgent demands for food to scathing reviews of our shower singing. But the most shocking discovery wouldn't be what they said. The most astonishing realization would be that they'd been talking to us all along. Every comforting purr when we felt sad, every gentle head nudge of affection, every slow tail swish and cat kiss, that deliberate slow blink, all of it, their silent language, a wordless form of communication we've often tried to decipher, but just as often overlooked. Perhaps if they were to gain a voice, the greatest revelation would be realizing they never actually needed words to convey what truly matters. Their love, trust, and affection were always right there, in plain sight. We just weren't always attuned to it. So yes, if cats could talk, the world would undoubtedly be a different place. But perhaps the most significant change would be within, yes, we'd finally understand that true communication goes far beyond just spoken words. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this little journey into the world of feline thoughts, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Now for my question to you, what's one phrase you would absolutely love to hear your pet say? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to read your answers.